When Star Wars was released, it rewrote the genre, the science fiction genre, and smashed records on its way to grossing more than $700 million worldwide in 1977. It created a new universe with amazing visuals and relatable characters, an original story, and plot twists that Hollywood had never seen before. Many people consider Star Wars to be one of the most influential film series of all time. Recently, Disney purchased the rights to Star Wars, and they started the series again. While fans were excited for the new film series, they were treated to subpar writing, cliche characters whose only purpose was comic relief, and a repeat of plot twists from the original series. You might ask, why would Disney handle such an important movie so carelessly? Well, that answer is in the statistics from Box Office Mojo, where it states that as of February 21st, the most recent Star Wars movie had grossed $1.3 billion. Unfortunately, this happens all too often in our society, where people focus more on making money than doing what is right. This is applicable to us as college students because we're at a time in our lives where we have to decide who we are going to be for the rest of our lives. My name is John Morgan Erramouspe, and I'm a finance student here at ISU, and I love history. I've studied it my whole life, and I have seen many examples in history of people who have focused too much on money. Today I'm going to talk about these problems, and I'm going to talk about solutions, and then I'm going to address any arguments that people might have. So let's get started at talking about this problem. In 2009, Bernie Madoff was convicted of stealing $60 billion in a Ponzi scheme. Heather Bresch from the pharmaceutical company Mylan had to go before Congress in order to explain why the price of EpiPens had increased 500%. The list goes on and on. Martha Stewart, Enron, Tyco, all of these companies and people have been involved in corruption. Some statistics about American households include the average cost of a white-collar crime in the U.S. is about $500,000, and according to 35 white-collar crimes, 1 in 4 American families will be the victim of a scam or identity theft. So think about your own life. When was the last time that a scam or fraud targeted somebody that you cared about? And when was the last time that somebody in your family tried to lure you into a get-rich-quick scheme? Well, these happen all too often. I imagine you've thought of many examples. So how do we solve this problem? Well, it starts with you. You have to start on a strong foundation. You have to choose to do what is right and choose to be good. That's great for us as college students because we can choose to do that right now, today. Some ways of doing this that you need to follow are: always follow the golden rule, which is treat others like you would want to be treated. So use that in your life, in your family relationships, and in your career. As you work with other people, always imagine that they're your grandmother or your mom, and you'll be sure to treat them well. Another thing is always stand up for what is right. Don't be afraid to fight for what is right. That's very important. According to Edmund Burke, all that is necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. So don't be afraid to fight. And some of you are saying, well, these are big corporations and they own the rights to these things. Why don't we just let them make money? In order to address that, I would use the story of the 54th Massachusetts Regiment, which was the first African-American regiment in the Civil War. They led the charge at Fort Wagner on Morris Island in South Carolina, where their 600-strong regiment was cut down by 270 men. Many people consider Morris Island sacred ground due to the sacrifice that these men made. Unfortunately, over a century later, real estate developers wanted to build on this island, even though it was the site of this battle. And historians and societies had to come together in order to raise enough money to purchase the land so that these developers wouldn't build on the land. So unfortunately, these even though these people owned it, they were willing to do disrespectful things in order to make money. Another statement that you might have is, well, I'm just one person, I can't make a difference. Well, I'm here to tell you that that's wrong, because you are underestimating your power as a human being. I used the example of Oskar Schindler during World War II, who spent his whole fortune throughout the war in order to pay for Jewish people to come and work in his factory so that they wouldn't be sent to concentration camps. At the end of the war, he had saved more than 1,200 Jewish people. So never underestimate what you can do. And looking forward to the future, a lot of you are probably wondering, if we implemented these things in our lives, what would change? So far we've talked a lot about the really bad parts of society, but we haven't talked about the good parts. Think for a minute, when was the last time that you talked with somebody who suffered from polio? And I imagine that you probably can't remember the last time you talked to somebody. That's because in the 1950s, Jonas Salk developed a vaccine for polio, and instead of getting a patent and making a fortune of $7 billion on this vaccine, he made it available to everyone in the United States and throughout the world in order to stop polio. When asked about the patent and who it belonged to, he said, the people, I would say. So imagine a world where we have all the good that has already been accomplished and none of the bad that is happening. That would be a very amazing world, don't you think? So, to end, we've talked about the problem that focusing on money has created in society. We've talked about how we have to change our own lives in order to change society. And I talked about how you have to choose to be a good person today. That entails following the golden rule, which is treating others the way you would want to be treated. And you also have to not be afraid to take a stand and fight for what you believe in. And as we do these things, we'll be able to create a better society. And I thank you for your time.